Hey guys, it's Miss Austin here with your first lesson over place value. Miss Elise will be dropping a video also over converting decimals to fractions, but I want you to do this one first because this one is super important in knowing exactly how to use the numbers and how they work in sequences. So this is our first lesson. We will be spiraling through things that we've already learned because I want to make sure it's still as sharp in your head. So let's go ahead and get started. So here we have our decimal place value chart, and you guys have been seeing this all year long. And here we always start with our ones. So this is actually where our place value chart starts. So here we have our ones, tens, hundreds, thousands, 10,000s, 100,000s, and millions. And here you can see what those look like. And notice here we have our commas. So after I say thousands, there should be a comma, and millions, there should be a comma. So what that means is each grouping is of 3. So 1, 2, 3, hundreds, 10,000, or ones, tens, hundreds, that is a group. So there's that comma. Thousand, 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 they all have thousand. And so we need to break that up with the millions with that comma. That's super important for whenever you're writing checks, if you write checks for somebody, or if you're trying to calculate how much money somebody has, or really and truly just working with big numbers in general, you need to make sure you have those commas. And then we have on the other side of the decimal, our tenths, which is decimal 1. Sometimes it also looks like 0.1, and then hundreds, which is 0.01. So we focus on these in 4th grade, and in 5th grade you'll move on to thousands and 10,000s. So I wanted to go ahead and give you all a little preview of what that looks like because you will be using that soon. So this is our decimal place value chart. If you haven't already, or if you would like to take notes, this is something you for sure should put in your notes, okay? So first off, what is place value? What is it? So place value is the exact location of a digit. So where a number, remember digit means number, where a number falls, and the value is how much is that digit or number worth. So if I'm looking at the number 325, we are going to look at the place value of all of these numbers. So the 5 is in the ones place, and we know that because there's no there's nothing here, which means that there's a pretend decimal. So if I was talking about money, it would be 325 decimal 00, but we'll go on to that later. So here's the 5 in the ones place, which means it has a value of just 5, so like $5. Here we have our 2. Our 2 is in our tens place, so that would be like 20, so 25. And then a 3 in the hundreds place value, so that would be 300. So 325 would be the amount of this whole thing. But the value is broken up into just the place value. So this is the 300 value. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about the decimal point a little bit more. So this decimal point is crucial, really important for any time you're working with money, really. Money or making things smaller, like whenever you get into 6th grade, you'll talk about pi, or maybe even 5th grade, you'll talk about pi, which is not the kind of pie you eat. But anyway, so the decimal point means and. Anytime you're writing out a number, writing out a check, you are going to use this decimal point and say and. So for some quick practice, how many or what is the number that is in the tens place? What number is in the tens place? If you said 6, you're absolutely correct. So what I do is, or what you would do is you would come to the tens and look up at this number, and this number is 6. 6 is in the tens place. And what value would that have? 6 tens would be the same as 60. And I know that if I skip count by tens 6 times. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. Okay, what number is in the 10,000s place? If you said 9, you are absolutely correct as well. So there are 9 10,000s or 90,000s. And just for good practice, what place value is the 4 in? The 4 is in the 10th place, and that is right after that decimal. So be very mindful that those two are like married. Anytime there's a decimal, it needs to be connected with this 4. So this would be decimal 4, decimal 00. Oops. And then let's go ahead and move on. So there are different ways to show a number. And the ways that we've talked about a lot in 4th grade is standard form, and you've been talking about standard form since kindergarten. Word form, and the base 10 model. We've talked about all three of those ways. Standard form is just the standard way to write a number, exactly how a number looks. And so we have 273,000. I know that's 1,000 because of my comma. 489. And so that's standard form. And another way to write that exact same number is to use word form. And word form is literally writing it out in words. Okay, so we have 273,000. Notice there's a comma. 489. So you want to make sure you use the place name at each comma. So here, like we said, is the comma with the 1,000. And if I look at standard form, 73,000 is where that comma is. So that should match. Also, another little hint is to use a hyphen. A hyphen is that tiny little dash that's in between a 2-digit number. So like 73, 89, it should be there. I'm not seeing it. It might just be too small. And then also, don't use and if there are no decimals present. Looking at this number, 273,489, I don't see a decimal. So there's no need to use and. And another way to write a number is with the base 10 model. And we have our number here written 145. And let's start with our smallest unit first, which our smallest unit is a 5. So I'm going to come over here to, if we're working with base 10 blocks, we have 5 small cubes. 5 is in the ones place. 4 tens, which would be 40, 10, 20, 30, 40. So like 45 if I put those together. And then the hundreds block, which would be, I just have 1, so I have 145. And since my camera's blocking expanded form, we're going to move on to talk about it here. Expanded form is another way to write a number, and that just means we're expanding it out. We're making it bigger. So looking at this number, I have 40,000 plus 5,000 plus 700 plus 20 plus 3. And what does that equal? Well, we can write this number in standard form by just taking out all of those zeros. And remember, you always want to start with the biggest side or biggest number. So I have my 4, 4, 5, 5, and then notice the comma is right next to that 5. So I'm going to keep that comma right next to that 5. 7, 2, and 3. So I have 45,723 in expanded form. And another way to write a number or to show a number is with expanded notation, which this is one that we learned this year on how to write out. And it's the exact same thing. It's just this time you're using the actual place value. And it kind of looks like a little formula equation. And all that is these parentheses, you just make sure everything in those parentheses stays together. So here I have 4 times 10,000. 4 times 10,000 would be the same as 40,000. We would just change 4 times 1 is 4. So 40,000. Doesn't that kind of look the same as up there if I put this as a 4? Yeah, it'd be the exact same thing. So 4 times 10,000 plus 5 times 1,000. Just like this, 5 times 1 would be 5. And how many zeros? 3 zeros, so 5,000. Plus 7 times 100. Remember, this has parentheses around it, so we keep those together. 7 times 100 would be 700. 2 times 10 would be 20. And then 3 times 1 would be 3. And one super cool way to always make sure you stay focused on expanded form, expanded notation, word form, all of that is to use a place value chart. It is totally going to help you out. This is the exact same number we were working with up here and up here. And notice, how many ones are there? 3. Here's the ones. How many values? We have 3. In the tens, how many tens did we say? 2. In the hundreds, how many hundreds? 7. So if you use a place value chart, you will always, always, always get it right. Okay, so now we're going to do a little bit of practice. And so I have a handy dandy board here, and on the activity that you're going to be turning in today, you are to write the numbers in standard form. And standard form is just writing the exact number as you see it. So we're going to practice that just these 2 times with me here, and then you'll get started on your own. So here we have 7,986 and 5 tenths. So whenever I'm writing a number in standard form, that means that I'm writing it out as numbers. This is in words. I want to write it as numbers. So I always start at the beginning. 7,000. So I'm going to start with my 7. 7,000. And anytime I hear 1,000, that should tell me, ooh, a comma, because I'm changing into a different grouping. 986. So 86 is just an 8 and a 6. 7,986. I'm not done yet because I see that this has the word and. And is super important whenever you're talking about working with decimals. So what does that and mean I need to put? If you said decimal, you're absolutely right. We need a decimal there. So I'm going to draw my decimal nice and big so that I don't forget I'm working with a decimal. And I have 5 tenths. And remember how everything after the decimal is tenths, hundredths, thousandths, 10,000ths, keeps on going. Okay, so tenths means I'm just going to have the 5 right next to it. Okay, do I have any hundredths? I don't have any. I could put a placeholder or leave it blank. It's up to you. Okay, so that's how we change word form into standard form. And here we're going to take a look at expanded form, which is just like expanded notation. It just doesn't have all the parentheses and the multiplication. And we're going to change this into standard form. So I'm pretty much just going to look at this number, write it down, and see where my commas and things need to be. Okay, so I noticed I'm starting at the biggest spot. I have my 6. Is that big enough to see? 6. I notice there's a space here after that comma, so I'm not working with the comma yet. 8, then the comma. 9, 7, 5, and then I have this last 5. And as you probably know from earlier, can y'all see that? Is that just crazy? Yeah, you can see that. As you know, the decimal is key, super important. I need to make sure I keep that decimal there. So I'm going to write a decimal 5. If I were to just put another 5, that would be wrong, because that would tell me no placeholder. That would be no place value. This decimal tells me this 5 is in the tenths place. So we need to keep those 2 together. They're almost married, okay? Think of them that way. The decimal always goes together with the others, okay? So why is this important? I talked a little bit about if you're writing checks or working with money. This is how you make sure you write out the correct amount. Nobody wants to get paid $68.97 if they're supposed to get paid $68,975.50. So make sure you're working with those decimals and lining up your place value. Use a place value chart to help you. This is the end of lesson 1. There are a couple more videos you can watch if you need some extra practice or if you would like to see it in a different way. Also, Ms. Solis will be posting converting decimals to fractions, so you'll be doing that today too. And also, Ms. Bryan and Austin, we have a Google Hangouts meeting today at 11, so if you're able to make it, we would love to see you there. We'll both be there. Other than that, happy learning today. I hope you all have a great day, and